All right, greetings. So, turn up the video speed. Over the years, I've heard people talk about, the need for people to have children to keep societies going, demographic collapse, leaving a legacy. And if I look back at the classical reasons why it made sense in the past and it's still kind of used as an excuse today, I don't think they really apply. So, where am I going with this? I'll explain. This is Freedom Phil, like, subscribe, let's get into it. And hey, turn up the video speed. In ages past, your retirement plan was literally your children. So if you had eight kids or some that died in, childbirth and then some that, didn't make it along the way, what about some of them were just dummies or criminals? So they're kind of out of the picture to help you out. Maybe you got one or two of them out of all of them that come back and help take care of mom and pop. So that was retirement. And conveniently, about the same time that we started having Social Security or pensions in a lot of countries, surprise, a lot of people started having less kids. One could argue these days there's a lot of financial stresses as well for reasons that people aren't having children. What about the classic military reason? Well, we need more men to be warriors of the future. So we need more women, protect as many women as possible because of the determining factor of how many more men you're going to produce. It's long been known. You lose half your men, that sucks. But if you lose half your women, that's catastrophic. So, the women have more warriors. The men go out and fight, farm, do whatever. And usually for reasons like that, those other people over there, they don't think like us. And the king says, we got to go kill them because he doesn't like that other king. And we want their stuff. That's most of human history. Just tribes of over-evolved chimps running around, killing other chimps. So we get to the modern era. And like I said, with Social Security, people have less motivation to have a lot of kids, especially women. I mean, these days you see a lot of women, the way they have kids, it's like, well, first I'm going to go out and do all this partying and then go to college and then I'm going to have a job for a while. And then when my eggs are almost dry and dusty, about 30 years old, I'll have a child. And they have the child like going out and getting a Prada bag. You're like, is this relevant? Like you're not even having this kid for good reason. I mean, you're going to raise the kid. Oh God, what do you think? This is the 1950s? Ew. No, we have daycare for that. So a lot of people I don't even think are that great of parents. And yet they have the 1 or 2 point something kids. And then you have the people that are like, well, one kid's enough. My opinion on this is that if you're going to have one kid, have 2 or 3. Not because of like the population thing, but what if you had one kid and the drops dead? Wow, that was a huge sacrifice to lose it all. You're going to gamble, at least think about it first. But when it comes to the whole idea of having tons of kids, society wants it because, in my opinion, the society is just a giant Ponzi scheme, pyramid scheme of sorts, where the previous generation doesn't want to pay their bills, so they kind of hoist the problem on the next generation. Who's going to pay my Social Security? Who's going to pay for the schools, the welfare, and all that? So you need more people to constantly be generating income. Also, this is also a lot of the reason that you'll see people get where they get stuck. They want them to get stuck. They want them to have kids when they're too young, and they want them to have credit debt. They want them to have problems. So those will be good, obedient workers for most of their life. A 30-year mortgage that hopefully you pay off in 15 or 20. I mean, most people, they're lucky if they do it in 25. So it's just good business. Plus, if these people end up getting divorced, broken homes, that just resets the cycle, and now they got to do it all over again. Except for now they have, handicap of bills and other stuff and child support and all the other problems. So for society, you having kids is good business. Now people talk about, well, hey man, if we don't have enough people, what about if a major war breaks out? I hear that. But I don't know if you've noticed, but wars, manpower, ground pounding, it ain't the same as it used to be. We're not talking about World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. These days, you could have a situation where a fleet of drones show up and do stuff. You're talking about manpower and whatnot in the old conventional sense. And if someone really wanted to, they could gas attack. If we get to nukes or neutron bombs, what do you think your huge army is going to do against that? So for society's betterment, I think, instead of peace through war, through absolute dominance, peace through trade. Because, hey, when I build something, you build something, we trade things back and forth. It's better than, potentially worldwide destruction. But I can see why society wants you to have more kids. It's in their best interest. It's just there are more people to generate money to pay the bills. But is that really a good reason? And then we come down to a lot of people have said this has been debunked, the concept of overpopulation. But I don't know if it has, because if you take a damn good look at water supplies, fresh water supplies in the world, crops and all this, energy, we could solve a lot of these problems. Like, for instance, you go down in America, you see some of these places in the desert where 70% of the, I think, Colorado River water in that particular area is used to grow hay and alfalfa. We could just shift that and grow vegetables. We could say, hey, we're going to make less beef and we're going to make more vegetables for cheap vegetables for people. So there are some things that could change. But please explain to me why having more people, especially when, I don't know if you've noticed, but most people, they're kind of stupid. They're kind of out there and they're, oh, I guess I'll buy a pickup truck at 11% interest or 6% interest. I'll have a credit card at 20% interest, student loans, and a house that I can't afford for the next 30 years. These aren't bright people. This is just more people in the McDonald's line clogging things up. Like, that's the other thing. If we were making highly, well-built individuals, I could understand this. But we still have the mode of like, well, we need more peasants. We need more peasants. No, we don't. We don't. Anywhere in the world, we don't need just more people all competing for the same water, the same food, the same everything. And I don't think we have to go through some major war to get around this. I just think, hey, maybe it's not a bad thing that people aren't having kids. In the sense that eventually, I don't know if people understand this, a lot of jobs are going to be replaced. And then what do you do with people? Do we have like a UBI, eventually? Do we all agree on a UBI and some national health care? Like, do we get to that Star Trek level, or do we get to something a bit more darker? And I just think the more people you have, the more problems you're going to have. Now, some people talk about, side note, about having a legacy. I think the whole legacy argument is, you want to leave a legacy? I mean, I don't know. What do I say about it? You want to leave a legacy, then do something incredible. Invent something incredible. You cranking out some crotch fruit is not a legacy. When I hear people say that line, a buddy of mine said this years ago. My dad once said, best thing I ever did was have kids. And I had to sit there and he's like, I didn't say anything. It's like he's thinking, wow, Dad, the best thing you ever did was jizz in my mom and crank out like 3 kids. Doesn't sound like you're aiming that high. And that's the truth of it. I could understand in the past when we needed more physical labor to do everything. I could understand it when wars were fought with more human bodies. But in the modern age, like just cranking out another Cletus, it just doesn't make any sense. And yeah, I get that we should have maybe a replacement population, but I even question that. Like, how much worse off would you be, assuming you actually had your act together and you saved for your retirement? You already had your retirement fully funded. Would you care if the population was halved? Would it really make a difference? I don't know. So, I don't know. That's my thoughts on it. This is Freedom Phil. Like and subscribe. And remember, always turn up the video speed because your time matters. Take it easy.